I think that the average American can see that we're not living in normal times as a country in the broader West and the broader world. We're living in a time where a very unusual man has been elected president. I would say a very good, unusual man has been elected president in a strange way. We live in a time of very polarized elections and very polarized dialogue between the two sides of the aisle. It seems that both parties disagree more now than they have ever in the history of America. And I'm saying that with the knowledge that we've had a civil war before. Everything between who's going to be the next president in 2028, is Trump going to run again, to who's going to be the mayor of the greatest American city, and to how the American people feel about the two largest and most prominent and only political parties in the United States. Welcome to Old Fashioned. Alright, so there's been a lot of talk already, even though we're not even done with Trump year one, though I bet a lot of people in this country wish Trump term's already over. Me, for one, it's just started, and I'm almost tired of I'm almost tired of winning. I wouldn't say I'm totally done, or I'm gonna tap out, but I'm right there on the cusp of just being like, I can't take it. It's too much winning. Anyways, people are already talking about the 2028 presidential election. That's already the biggest news that I've been seeing because the president's already been talking about joking around with running again for a third term, but because the other side of the aisle's a little bit, how would you say, enthusiastic about their beliefs, they get very flustered, actually very quickly. So I just want to take a look at these polls right here. So I have pulled up Real Clear Polling. I don't really know how prestigious they are. I just wanted to see numbers, and this is the first thing that actually popped up. So for the Democrats, because the Democrats are a little bit in a frenzy right now on who's going to be our leader, who's going to lead us. We need a liberal Joe Rogan, and we need to calm the rhetoric, but also our enemies are literally going to destroy our entire country and are the worst people ever. But we need to calm the rhetoric. They need a leader right now leading the party in polling as of a few months ago. As of recent, we have Pete Buttigieg, as I like to call him, Pete Booty Juice. Me and Joe Biden like to call him that. He is leading 21 points in the Democrat polling. Following him is Newsom at 19 points. And then we have the amazing AOC. Everybody loves AOC. 10.5%. Harris, crazy Kamala, even though Kamala she had one of the greatest political insights I've ever seen, at least in like recent American politics, where she says you didn't just fall out of a coconut tree. That's very wise and goes back to ancient history. Anyways, that was just a little I think it was a subconscious genius that was trying to escape, but then she kind of I don't know, pushed it back down because you're not allowed to be sane and a Democrat at the same time. They'll kick you. I think they actually kick you out. After Harris, we have Pritzker, who is, I think the governor of Illinois, isn't he? And then you have Bernie Sanders at 6 points. So here's the deal. Buttigieg is up 2 points behind, in front of Newsom. Now Newsom is here. Nobody likes him. I think the only reason Buttigieg is up because he's been able to stay out of the public eye a decent amount, and he's had the least amount of craziness going on, or crazy quotes or crazy footage. Listen, that's good for a Democrat, but for the average person, posting a picture of yourself and your gay lover in a hospital holding a baby in a hospital bed like you just gave birth. That's like one of the craziest things ever. But Democrat standards, it's normal enough that he's up 21 points. After him is Newsom. Newsom has been campaigning, and then he just came out and said, actually, yeah, I am campaigning. You caught me. Like, we haven't known for a year this guy's trying to be the president. Like, he's literally like clawing his skin off. Like, I want to be the president. And then everyone's asked him, like, are you thinking about running? He's like, no, it hasn't crossed my mind. And then now he's like, yeah, so I'll look at the midterms, and then I'll decide if I'll run or not. He's 100% running. He's on this poll. He's 19%. He's been a disastrous governor. I mean, that's just true. He's done a horrible job of California. Everyone's moved out of it's not like you have a bad governor where you just talk about it like at dinner table, like, oh, this guy's so bad. People will literally quit their jobs, sell their homes, and move to a different state because he's such a horrendous governor. Entire streets of his cities are just a flood with it. It's so sad. No shame to these people, a little bit of shame, but we love old people. The homeless epidemic is insane in the state of California. People are walking around, people are on drugs, there's needles in the streets, people are defecating in the streets, people are doing very strange things to themselves, to other people. It's not dangerous, and it shouldn't be a part of one of our most prominent cities in what should be the greatest country in the world. When you go to a foreigner and you say, name American cities, they go New York, Miami, San Francisco, Los Angeles. But if you walk around San Francisco today, unless you're like the president of China, if you walk around San Francisco today, you're at risk to see some strange stuff or to get like assaulted. So that's not good either. AOC, people know AOC's kind of crazy. She kind of had that strange action at the Zoran Mamdani. Oh, we'll get into Zoran. Oh, we'll get into Mamdani. But she's at his rally. Behind her is just literally, I don't know if they're citizens, and I'm not saying this to be like, I don't know, to start something, but it was the most anti-American rally I've ever seen. But that's just the party now. That's just the Democrat Party. Anyway, she's screaming about like, we care about black people and we care about Hispanics, and then she goes, we also care about the Jews, and then people kind of stop clapping. Anyways, after her you have Kamala Harris. I don't even know if she's gonna run. She's not gonna become the candidate. Everyone knew. The only person who I can think is the leader of the Democrat Party right now, that like if this person speaks, every single member of the party, establishment and base are gonna listen, is Barack Obama. He is charismatic and he is smooth, and also he's not white, and they'd love him. And even Obama had to point out that Harris, at least according to the lip sign reader interpreter at the Carter funeral, when Obama was speaking to Trump, we have a very good feeling that Obama was not a fan of Harris. Biden was not really a fan of Harris. Harris wasn't a fan of Biden. So it's a very chaotic party right now, and this is going to make their primary vicious. It's going to be a vicious primary. It's going to be a chaotic primary. I wouldn't be surprised if the establishment kind of got rid of all that pesky democracy stuff and just straight up picked their candidate. Because it's just a bunch of people with different views. All right, you have your Sanders, who socialists, AOC socialists. They're the same team. They had that whole fight the oligarchy tour. We're gonna fight the oligarchy. Oh wait, I gotta go really quick. My private jet's waiting. Then you have Harris, who's just strange. You can say she was the most radical senator, like radically left senator. While she was in the Senate, sure, but I don't think that's actually uh, her ideology. It's more so her constituents. Because the thing about Harris is she'll do literally whatever to get power, and we've seen this from her entire career. I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty details, but we know she really will do whatever she wants, or whatever it takes to get what she wants. You have Newsom, who's attempting to be like, yo, I'm normal. It's not fair that guys go to ladies' sports and stuff, but also he's straight radical. I don't know. I'm trying to think, and I've had the same problem with Harris in the past, and then I decided that she's just an empty suit. Yeah. I have a hard time deciding if he's an empty suit or if he's tremendously radical, because we know on the gay marriage craze, he says it himself, he was officiating gay marriages before it was even legal. So he clearly is willing to push the ball as far as it goes. California is also it's such a bright blue state, especially now, especially since they let the floodgates open, that he's able to do that. He doesn't really have to play the establishment game in California, but now because he's running for president, he has to play the establishment game. So that's why the primaries are going to be so vicious in 2028, or in 2026 they're probably going to pop off, because it's you can't have a party, because the thing about our system is that we have a two-party system. Personally, I can appreciate our two-party system because if you look at every single other republic, they have coalitions, and coalitions can become confusing because then you have arguing between different factions of the same coalition, and then you have like a weird median where you have like a tiny third party who puts a wedge between the two, because it does come down to conservative or liberal. That's what it comes down to. So in our two-party system, it's just a cleaner coalition system. That's what it is. So you have your socialists who are just tremendously radical, especially on the economic front. You have the more radicals on the race and like sexuality front, and then you have your just establishment greedy types. Now those three factions within the Democrat Party hate each other more than anything. Now the socialists are able to work with the woke race kind of fear-mongering, very like colonialism was the worst tragedy in human history. Like, those people can get together because they hate normality, and then the establishment has to work with them because that base is becoming increasingly more, just the entire party is becoming more like that. And you can see this in Gen Z as just the left becomes more radically left. And we're going to touch on that later. And also the boomer class. Just that if you looked at the No Kings protest, median age was like 500. These are ancient people who are just kind of in their hippie, don't, love is love. Like, that kind of thing's gross and over, but the Democrats are still clinging on to that. Anyways, enough with those pesky Democrats. Let's move on to the Republicans. Now, the Republican Party is a lot more unified. If I asked you who's the leader of the Democrat Party, you wouldn't be able to tell me. If I say who's the leader of the Republican Party, you say Trump like that. Everyone knows that Trump is the leader of the party. And that makes it a lot easier when we're thinking about, okay, who's going to be the primary candidates? Or just who's going to win the Republican primaries for the 2028 race? Vance, he is going to be it. Now, a Vance Rubio ticket was proposed by Trump. Trump keeps getting asked this question. I don't know if he's getting annoyed by it at all, because he's like, come on, I'm just trying to... My first year's not even over, and you're asking me the next one? But Trump, he's not even just, like, the leader. Like, for most of history, you would say, okay, the president's the leader of his party. Okay, that makes sense. But it's not the same way where I could say, George Bush is the leader of the Republican Party, during his presidency because it was a different Republican Party. It was a lot more establishment. They could have a lot more quote unquote dialogue with the Democrats because they were just kind of on the same agenda. But Trump comes in and he really changed the game. That's why they attacked him so much. That's why Fox News didn't like him. Nobody liked Trump except for the actual common person, and that's why Trump actually won the election. That's why he ran on a populist platform, for better or for worse, introduced populism into our country, especially on the right. The left always try to do it, but they just do it in a strange way that turns a lot of people off because it's so radical. But Trump was able to build, I like to say, a populist bridge going from just gross, greedy establishment swamp and then some radicals to hopefully a more conservative regime. Trump was able to do that, and he radically transformed the Republican Party. So many people who are in politics became a lot more interested in politics on both sides because of Donald Trump. Okay, Trump was the guy. So now the party's so, I don't even want to say reform. I guess you could say the party's reformed in a sense that people are a lot more conservative. And ever since Trump came into the scene, a lot of things that conservatives would have been cautious to say because they were considered taboo, we're now just able to say we're a lot more comfortable with that. So Trump really transformed the party in that way and made it more just actually conservative. And it's strange because Trump's not that conservative of a figure. If you look in his past, he's a playboy. He's, a staunch, like, super capitalist. He has multiple divorces, blah, blah, blah. But he was able to be that bridge that we needed to get from establishment swamp to a more conservative regime. And now we're seeing that in the primary. Because if you look at the Democrat primary, it's very just, no one knows what they're doing. Buttigieg is up 2 points. Right behind him is Newsom. You have AOC at 10.5 points. You have Harris. Harris doesn't even know she's running. She wrote a book she didn't even write. You have the guy from Illinois who says, actually, Chicago doesn't have that much crime. And then you walk into one wrong street in Chicago and you're dead. Then you have Sanders, who's ancient and he's a horrible socialist. But if you look at the Republican polling, it's a lot more, and also because he's the vice president. You have Vance, who's 53.5 points. He's up 47 points. Right behind him is actually Tulsi Gabbard. I was not expecting that. 6.5 points. And then you have Haley, who's 6 points. Rubio, 6 points. DeSantis, 5.5. And then Vivek Ramaswamy, who is 3 points. But here's the dealio. Vance is going to be the candidate he's the heir apparent. He's Trump's number 2 guy. And actually is kind of already running for president a little bit. I can see it. He's becoming more vocal. He went to the Turning Point event. He's taking questions from the crowd. That's kind of strange for an active politician to just take open questioning from any single person. You have him. He did Charlie Kirk, the late great Charlie Kirk's radio show. He was able to. That was I don't want to say that was campaigning. That was just something he did for his friend. He did the Halloween stunt, which, I mean, okay, sure, it's kind of funny. But he is campaigning right now. He's more active in the scene, and you can just feel it. You can feel the vibe that he is getting his foot in the door to try to be the heir apparent to the Republican ticket. My guess is top of the ticket's Vance, bottom of the ticket's Rubio. If you look at Rubio, he's literally doing... You have Trump, you have Vance, you have RFK, Tulsi Gabbard, and then all the other positions at the White House. I think Marco Rubio, he's just doing it by himself. I can't even name everything he's doing. Secretary of War is the main thing. And we'll get to war in a little bit, because this administration keeps ending them. Good thing I didn't invest in the war market, because I would have lost a lot of money. They keep ending all these wars, and I think people are big fans of the Republican Party in general. speaking of general, if you look at the general election, because those were the primary polling. So the up 2 points on the Republican primary, on the Democrat primary would be Buttigieg, and then up 47 points on the Republican primary is Vance. So if those are your two leaders for the primaries, I mean, sure, there's your information. But if you look at this polling right here, we have one from mid-October from Emerson polling, where you have actually Vance up 1 point competing with Newsom. So, but the margin of error is 3 points, but you have Vance who sits at 46 points, and then you have Newsom who sits at 45 points. So that's close in the Emerson poll, but it has a Republican winning that ticket. At Yahoo, you have they release no margin of error, but this is coming from early September, late August, where you have Vance sitting at 41 points and Newsom sitting at 49 points. Newsom being up 8 in total. I don't buy it. I don't buy it at all. We have to understand that polls can lie sometimes, and especially left-wing polls like Yahoo will literally spread everything. Here, I'll leave it. I'll open it up. I'm just looking at a thing right now, but yeah, Yahoo News has Newsom winning. They have a completely oh, this is very strange, but this is an older poll. But you can see in their poll that you have the younger generation clinging to Harris and Cortez, while you kind of have the older generation clinging to Newsom in the Democrat primary. They have Newsom as their leader for the Democrat primary. And then, but that goes to show that the Democrat Party is becoming more and more radical at its base, especially with its youth, which is turning people off to the Democrat Party. That's why we saw, what was it, a 4 million voter shift between the parties? I think the Democrats lost 2.1 million registered voters, and the Republican Party gained 2.4 million registered voters. That was a little while back, but it's hard for me to see that and think, oh yeah, people are big fans of the Democrats. Not even the Democrats like Democrats, they'll limit it themselves. Emerson again has a different poll from earlier in the year. That doesn't matter. The most recent poll has Vance up 1 point from Emerson polling. I think, my money, I'm not a betting man, but my money is on Vance winning the entire thing. I think for the tickets, I would say you have a Vance Rubio ticket for Republicans, and then for the Democrats, you probably have maybe a Newsom Buttigieg. I don't know who's at the top and who's at the bottom for that. I don't see Kamala running. I don't see AOC getting through. She's too radical, and the primary is far too establishment type. She could run as an independent, but I cannot see an independent winning the presidency. I can't see the White House going to an independent. I don't know if that's ever happened. I mean, it must have happened. I think it happened one time, but I can't see that happening ever. Anyways, moving away from the 2028 presidential candidates, let's focus on our current president, Donald Trump. So Trump's in the news for a couple of things. He's in the news every single day. This guy, I don't know how you don't love him. Here's the deal with Trump. He, every single day, gives us 30 minutes to an hour of what's going on in the White House. Biden spoke 30 minutes for his entire 4 years. Literally, if you took all of the 4 years of the Biden administration, I'm not saying this to be hyperbolic, I don't think it adds up to a week of Trump. But anyways, so Trump's in the White House right now, and what is he working on? He's working on a U.S.-China trade deal. he announced a new agreement with China where Beijing had to curb their fentanyl, to raise restrictions on American farm goods, and to suspend new export limits on rare earth materials. The U.S. will roll back certain tariffs. Now, here's the thing with the tariffs. Everyone is hating on them. The Senate just had a vote, and actually a majority ruled to have him stop. It's going to die in the House. I think it may have died in the House right now. I have no idea. I haven't gotten any news about it recently. Let me see. No, I haven't gotten anything. But they're trying to stop the tariffs. But here's the thing about the tariffs. Everyone said we're going to go into a recession by Trump's 100th day. The year's almost over. Yeah, so there's no recession. Actually, we're booming because the chair of the Federal Reserve just came out and said there's 3 points that you can have the price of the tariffs fall on. You can either have it be the country where the tariffs are directed towards, you can either have it be the industry, or you can have it be the consumer. Now, the Democrats are trying to say it's the consumer. The consumer is eating it, your prices are going to go up, blah, 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 blah. That's not actually true. The industry is eating it right now because Trump is putting so much pressure. That's what he does. Now, Trump is using tariffs specifically against China very harshly because they're our chief adversary. We're allowed to say that. I don't want to go to war with China. We want to actually have good relations with our adversaries. That's why in Trump's first term, when he went to North Korea, people were like, that's so crazy, he's meeting with the dictator. Would you rather war with this crazy dictator, or would you rather a good relationship with him? So Trump is actually doing some great work. He has diplomacy with Syria. This guy has ended so many wars. I think he's ended 8 wars. I think he's ended 8 wars so far. I think there's been one in Africa. There's been the Syria. There's been the India-Pakistan. There's been the Israel-Iran, Israel-Hamas. There's been... what are the other ones? There's been the one in Asia. I can't even keep track of all those wars Trump is ending because it's just crazy. I can't think of a president who's done more in a year than Trump. I'm not saying I've studied presidents like crazy, but from what I know, I really cannot see a president that's done as much as Trump in such a short amount of time. It's actually crazy. 8 wars ended, trillion, I think it's gone up to the trillions in tariff revenue. He's had that, he's putting pressure on Big Pharma, saying that if we produce all medicine and drugs in the United States, we shouldn't have such high prices. Whichever country in the world has the lowest prices, that's what we're going to match with. And, I mean, he's literally putting the American people first. I know there's been like, oh, he's actually putting foreign countries first. I don't really see that. I just think that people don't understand the art of the deal. And you got to play the long game with Trump, all right? Because he'll say something, and then he'll do something else, and he'll do something, but he'll do it in a way that no one's ever done it before. You really can't try to predict Trump. It's a stupid thing to do. He's just doing such a great job. Anyways, government shutdown. This is the big thing. Now, if the Democrats have anything to go against Trump about, because the topics that Trump won on, literally, like, pretty much on the ticket, were these two problems. It was immigration, and it was transgenderism. And those summed up wokeness. Wokeness was on the ticket, and the Democrats were on the wrong side. Some people say it was an 80-20 issue. I think it's more in our favor. I think it's probably like a 90-10 issue, because those were the two sides of wokeness. You have the idea that all of human history is a dichotomy between the oppressors and the oppressed, and you kind of have to have some revolution to overthrow it. It's straight out of Marx, but just instead of money, they replace it with weird identities and with race. And it accumulated in transgenderism, where they said, actually, we're feminists, we care about women, and women are the same as men, which means men can become wet. And it was too far. It was too far. People were they were sick of it. They said, no, we're actually not going to do that. That's not the America I want to see. I do not want to go into a bathroom and see a dude in a dress. I do not want to walk into a locker room and see a naked dude. I do not want to see so many Olympic trophies. I want to say it's in the hundreds, but I don't want to get that figure wrong. Go into the hands of men because they're playing in female sports. The American people rejected that so hard that Donald Trump was the first Republican to win the popular vote in 20 years, okay? And then you also have immigration, which is just anti-American. So you have anti-normality in transgenderism, right? Not only do they hate men, they also hate women. And you see that with, well, actually men can become women and women can become men, and actually those concepts don't even exist, and people can be neither men or women, and you can be an animal if you want. So that was anti-normality, and then you have anti-America, which is saying actually our country was built by immigrants, which is to say to take all the prestige away from our framers and say actually our country was built by immigrants, and actually we have to let more immigrants in, and actually it's good if our culture totally evaporates and gets replaced with an alien culture. And the American people don't want that. Okay, the American people wanted and continue to want an American America. Okay, we want the football games, we want the baseball games, we want the hot dogs, we want the cheeseburgers, we want people to speak English, we want our laws to be in English. We don't want a Middle Eastern language to be written on one of the flags of an American city. This is absurd. This is not what the American people want. And I don't know what happened to the Democrat Party that they would ever think the American people would go for that. Complete insanity. And those were the 90-10 issues, the two biggest ones that were on the ticket, and Trump won it completely, winning the popular vote. 80% counties in the United States, I think, voted Republican. Every single state shifted to the right. Every single swing state voted for Trump. Trump completely won 2024, and I think we're going to see a lot more winning. I'm very hopeful about the primaries. And kind of like a pre-primary going on right now is this government shutdown. Why I call it a pre-primary is because it is a war between the Democrats and the Republicans. What's happening right now is that the Republicans are trying to pass through a clean resolution. Now, this clean resolution is a continuation of Biden-era spending. The only change is adjustment for inflation. Now, the Democrats voted for it, I want to say 6 months ago, and they voted on it multiple times, but now they're not voting for it. And their whole thing, if you go to the Democrat Twitter, if you just see what they say, well, the Republicans control the White House, the House, and the Senate. How is it the Democrats' fault? I'll tell you right now, because it actually is the Democrats' fault. So to pass the CR, to keep the government open, you need 60 votes in the Senate. Right now, we have 53 Republicans in the Senate. Only one Republican voted to keep the government shut down. The rest of them voted to keep the government open and to continue the Biden-era spending bill until the Republicans can get their spending bill through. They just ran out of time, and it's either government closes or we go with Biden's bill. Whatever. Now you have the Democrats who control the rest of the Senate. 4 Democrats voted, including one independent who sits in the Democrat caucus, but for all intents and purposes, 4 Democrats voted to keep the government open. The rest of them voted to shut it down. They usually vote in blocks like that, and they completely voted to shut the government down. Now the question is, why did they vote to shut the government down? People say, well, it's to give illegals health care or transgenderism for all people. I'm sure they want some sort of increase on transgender surgeries. I'm sure they're upset about Planned Parenthood getting defunded. I'm sure they're upset about the border getting cracked down and illegal immigrants getting taken off of American tax paid for healthcare. I'm sure they're upset about that. But this is a political stunt. Right now, the Democrats are saying, we literally have nothing. We literally have nothing. Trump is ending wars. Trump is bringing in revenue. Trump is giving speeches and press conferences every single day. J.D. Vance is very popular. The Republican Party is very unified. The Democrat Party is very split and fractured, and just people don't like it. It's a war between the establishment and the radicals, and they're going to actually really hurt each other. They're ready. The radicals on the Democrat side are hurting the Republicans, literally killing the Republicans, calling us fascistic and Hitlerian, all these terms. The Democrats are losing. Okay, the main issues. A poll just came out on the biggest issues. Immigration, Republicans win on. Transgenderism, Republicans win on. I think terrorist, Republicans win on. Foreign policy, Republicans win on. And the only issues that the Democrats won on, I think, was the environment and abortion. And the abortion margin was very close. I think that the American consensus, not that I'm a big fan of this, is that in cases of rape, incest, and the life of the mother, even though life of the mother, that doesn't count as abortion, but whatever, abortion's okay. That's what they say. That's the American view. I think increasingly, but it's not really women. It's men who haven't really thought about the issue, and then radical women. But women who have thought about the issue very, very much are pro-life. And another issue that's kind of like that, where Democrats think, oh, we have a total hold on this issue, is gay marriage. Well, we can actually see that the gay marriage approval rating has dropped to like 54. And I think it's within the margin of error to be just a 50-50 issue. But this is like no one really thought that it would get that close, but it's seriously decreased. I think they were up 30 points a little while ago, and now they're up 4 points, 5 points. Okay, yeah, big deal. Anyways, the Democrats are losing on all of these issues, and they keep losing. So their only thought was, well, we'll just shut everything down, because they're throwing a tantrum because they're children. They're like, we'll shut everything down and we'll blame the Republicans. But people understand you need 60 votes to keep the government open. Republicans don't have 60 senators. The Democrats are actually the one keeping the government shut down, and they refuse to open it. It's a Biden era spending bill. They voted on it before. The only thing they're doing is being little crybabies. All right, whatever. No one really cares about the Democrats. The polling just came out. Republicans are actually winning this government shutdown war, and I think it's above the margin of error. So it's like, according to that poll, Republicans are winning the government shutdown bill war, which means like the American people, according to this bill, think that the Democrats are at fault for it, and the Democrats are kind of being a bunch of losers, and the Republicans are on the right, which so happens to be the truth. So that's a yay for democracy. All right, so what's next? Now we have the mayoral race for the state, for not the state of New York, for the city of New York. Now, New York City, I really care about New York City. Both of the sides of my family are from New York City. It's just a great American city. The American landmark is the Statue of Liberty. It's in that city. You have the Empire State Building in that city. But it has been devolving over time to just be kind of a Democrat cesspool. Everyone's very angry. It's just kind of the vibes are off. The vibes are off. And now we can see the vibes being put to the test in the mayoral race. Alright, let's see this mayoral race. This mayoral race, the top three candidates, you have Zoran Mamdani, who's running as a Democrat. You have Andrew Cuomo, who's running as an independent. And you have Curtis Sliwa, who's running as the Republican candidate. And to quote Curtis Sliwa, it's going to be a little hard for him because there's a lot of places in New York City that the only Republican they've ever seen is Abraham Lincoln on the $5 bill. Now, people might think Well, how's Cuomo even going to have a chance of winning as an independent? It's different for mayoral races. When you get at the more local level, independents have a larger chance of winning. But at the presidential level, I don't think an independent could win at the presidential level. I can't see it. But anyways, you have Zoran Mamdani, who's voting as. That's just because a lot of Americans just vote. Is it a D or an R? Is it my letter? That's who I'm gonna vote for. Anyways, you have Zoran Mamdani, who, according to CBS News 15 hours ago, he's at 40.6. Cuomo's at 30.4, and Sliwa's at 24.1. Well, actually, now that I'm looking at that numbers, I thought it was a lot more Mamdani's favor. That's actually good because Mamdani would destroy New York City. Now, a lot of people are very pessimistic about what's going to happen. They think Mamdani's going to win, and terrible stuff's going to happen. Now, I will not call myself an optimist. I refuse to call myself an optimist. Good things don't just happen, but I'm hopeful that it's all going to end well. I'm hopeful that it's all going to end well. I've just seen too much winning recently, and I refuse to accept failure. I refuse to accept defeat. I'm not tired of winning yet. So we have Mamdani, who's at 40, like 41 basically, and then you have just like 6 points below him is Andrew Cuomo running as an independent. Now 6 points, that is enough to just kind of say, that's enough to be confident in Mamdani winning, right? 6 points is a big of enough gap that we can be confident that Mamdani's probably going to win. He's also probably going to win because he's on the Democrat ticket in New York City. Like, I don't know how many people would just vote for the Democrat. Even in the debate, the New York City debate, mayoral debate, the first one, Mamdani even mentioned, because they were trying to press him, they were saying, you're a Democrat socialist, you're a Democrat socialist. And he said, actually, he's like, at the ballot box, you'll find me as the Democrat. And you can see he's being very strategic about that. And I think it's a decent amount that people are just skeptical of socialism as a whole. The Nazis were National Socialists, and then you have just the communists were kind of globalist socialists. So I think Americans are very suspect of that because they're like, oh, it is communism. And Trump's being very smart about how he's handling this. Oh, my little socialist, my little communist, my little communist. Because a lot of people are trying to say, oh, he's a jihadist, he was spending time with a guy who endorsed 9/11. Sure, he's kind of strange in that department, but he's not a jihadist. This guy's he's not a practicing Muslim. He doesn't care. He's not going to fly a plane into a building. He's a communist. He's a radical leftist. And like I said earlier, you can see the socialists, the two radicals in the party. Because you have the establishment, and then you have the two radicals. You have the socialists, and then you have the woke crowd. They can become friends because they hate normality, they hate America, they hate colonialism, they hate Christianity, they hate white people, they hate men, they hate women, they hate a lot of things. They just have hate in their heart, and they're able to kind of team up. And they've kind of teamed up into one person right here with Zoran Mamdani, where you have the socialist element. He is a Democrat socialist. He said we have to abolish capitalism. But then you also have the woke side of him, where he's marching he's like a grand marshal at the, like that one lady who said Jesus would be grand marshal at the Pride Parade. Zoran Mamdani was literally a grand marshal at the Pride Parade. You see him talking to transgender rabbi. I'm a transgender rabbi, and I endorse Zoran Mamdani. You see him talking about how he's like, the biggest victim of 9/11 was my aunt who didn't take the subway because she was wearing a hijab. And then you also see him, there's another thing that he did that's very woke. Oh, he flipped off Christopher Columbus. Yeah, that's strike 1 and 3. He flips off Columbus. He does all these horrible things. because he is the unification of the radical side of the Democrat Party, which is the socialists and the racial, sexual radicals. Now, he is those things, but he wants to also appeal to the establishment crowd, because there's a lot of old people in New York City who I'm not sure how much they'd go for that. So he's kind of trying to also play the middle base, which is smart. In the primary, you play the radical. In the general, you play the middle. So he tried to say, you'll find me under the Democrat ticket. Pretty much trying to say just Democrats just vote Democrat. You guys are pretty good at that. Like, just, I mean, I don't know how many minorities, like, probably most Black Americans will just vote for the D. Probably most Jewish people will vote, especially in New York City, will just vote for the D. A lot of white people are just going to vote for the D. Hispanics are actually shifting towards Trump. Trump won the Hispanics. He didn't win the Hispanics, but he only lost by 10 points, which means he had 40 points in the Hispanic community, which is kind of phenomenal. Especially, he hates Spanish people. He's going to kick them all out and put them in Alcatraz. And then he wins them, or he almost wins them, with 40 points of the Hispanic vote. And 1 in 5 black guys voted for Trump. So Trump's bringing the minorities to the Republican side, but this is New York City, right? This is not national. National level, we can be it's a lot more in the air. At the national level, we're allowed to say Trump won 40 points with the Hispanic vote. But at the New York City level, that's why it's so hard for me to, like, of course I want him to win. Of course I want the Republicans to win. All right, I'm not going to sit here and be like, I kind of want Cuomo to win. But here's the thing. I don't think Sligo's going to win. I don't think he's going to win. I want him to win. Now, he's 24.1, Cuomo's 34. Like, that's a 10-point difference. That's a big difference. He was only up 12. Let's see. He was up 12, but that was when Eric Adams was still in the race. So this was a while ago. Not up 12. He only had 12 points. And then Cuomo actually only had 25 points. But Cuomo actually... Cuomo went up a decent amount. He actually went up 9 points. And Mamdani, when Eric Adams was in the race, this is according to ABC, the most recent polls from CBS. So different poll, but whatever. ABC saying that Zoran was at 44 points. Now he's only at 40.6. So he's actually dropped almost 4 points. Well, Cuomo's gone up almost 10 points, and then Sliwa went up 12 points, which is impressive. Adams only had 7, so you had to divide the 7 up. And then Zoran lost it, because I think people are kind of realizing that Zoran is radical, and people are getting turned off by that. I want to be optimistic about this, but I don't know if I can be. I want to be hopeful about this, but I don't know if I can be. If Mamdani does take over New York City, it is going to be a problem. He's going to say he's going to tax the rich. The rich are just going to leave. The rich will just leave New York City, and he'll have no one to tax. And then all these promises will not be fulfilled. And then I don't actually know what's going to happen towards them. Either the radicals are going to make excuses. They're going to blame the rich. They're going to blame Republicans. They're going to blame Trump in general. Or they're going to be angry with Zoran. I know that Zoran said that he's going to try to resist ICE, which is highly illegal. You're not allowed to, as a mayor, resist national troops or national forces at all. And Trump said, well, we're going to arrest him if he does that. That's going to be kind of if Trump arrests Zoran, even if it's on, valid grounds, that's going to be very difficult, especially that's just going to be spin crazy. So hopefully if that happens, Republicans can kind of be smart in how they, use the media in that sense, so that they can actually say, well, you're, as a mayor, not allowed to resist federal troops who are doing the legal job that ICE is allowed to do. Now, if he just goes in there and kind of takes over New York City, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. Part of me, the reason why I'm so invested in people are like, well, I don't live in New York City. Why would I care? It's just a big American city, the biggest American city, and it really actually does matter. And it's just so much of our history stems from that, and that's important to understand. Anyways, let's hope that we can be optimistic about this, or hopeful about. I gotta stop saying, optimism's fake. That's not real. We have to be hopeful about this. Hopefully, stuff can go well. Republicans seem to be winning every single poll I see, especially the most recent polls. Right? You have that unified Vance ticket. You have that Vance being up by a point, which margin of error of 3 points, sure, but he's still up, and that's mid-October. You have the Democrats being a little bit more disorganized. You have the Republicans winning the shutdown war. You have Trump winning on foreign policy and on all this stuff. Let's see, State of the Union. Trump. Now, Trump's a little struggling on job approval, I guess. He's down 8 points, it seems like. I'm just seeing this right now for the first time. But that's CBS, which you can, sure. So it's, 44.4 points for the approval, 53 points for the disapproval, and that's coming from mid to late October. Let's see, job approval. Yeah, it seems like he's down. Now, these places are very, he's down on job approval, which, whatever, you can't win them all. But for the most part, Trump's up, the Republicans are up. So I think we do have a reason to be hopeful about the state of our union. We'll just see what happens. But we will be coming back next week to this channel to talk about some stuff. But thank you so much for joining us on Old Fashioned. We'll see you soon.